everyone, virtually and in person, September 11th. I can't help but think, where was I 23 years ago today? I know that is something that is hard to believe, that it's been that many years since that incident. So we do need to do roll call, though, and so why don't you start with roll call then?
Sure. Dee Del Rosa, City of Bloomington.
Mary Morgan.
BUEA.
Jane Cooperson. BUEA.
Heather Robinson, BUEA. Then if we could go online, Phil.
Bill Emerson, BUEA.
Oh, you're muted, please.
Kate Rosenbarger, BUEA.
And then, Felissa, you're muted.
I think you're still muted.
Yep, still muted.
Weird. Yeah.
Elisa Spinelli.
Hey, got it.
Hey, there she is.
Thank you. And then
Sorry.
Alex Braff-Eagle. I think we'll need Kate to be visible and heard. Unfortunately, she cannot call in if she wants to participate.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that, Kate. You will have to be on camera if you want to participate.
Can she sit and listen otherwise?
I think that's fine.
Okay, otherwise you can just hang back and listen, but rules.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm just not gonna, it's not, being here a little bit is a real magical moment for me today. So I can listen, or I can listen later, whatever you guys want.
For sure. I think it's up to you because we technically do have a type of quorum, or we don't need quorum to do anything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Kate, if you want to bounce off because you're not feeling well, that's totally fine. It's up to you.
Okay, that's fine. I'll leave and then we'll catch up on it later.
Okay.
Take care.
Sorry, we don't have quorum.
Okay, feel better, Kate.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
bye.
Okay.
All right, so Dee, you're up.
All right, everybody. I'm going to show my screen. This is pretty exciting, everyone.
Ooh, compliance reporting.
Woo, compliance reporting. Let's see if we can go into, oh, never mind. I don't like doing these, thank you. I just must not, I don't know how to do it from, I don't like using a computer that doesn't have all the settings that I already have. I have no problem doing it from here. We're all friends. You can see my notes. So this is the annual compliance report for the EZID. Everybody's got this in their packet. I know that it is lengthy and there's a ton of stuff in there. What I'm trying to do with this program is to get kind of something more formal put together. Originally, this was established by the state of Indiana, and then so DOR had it for a while, and then it was sent to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and now it's kind of been left to the municipalities to handle their EZID programs. So I'm trying to formalize it a little bit more, so it's something similar to the abatements, because they do act like abatements, and I'll get into the details of that.
Formalize the reporting.
Formalize the reporting.
Yeah, it's all formal already.
It's already formal, but formalizing the reporting, thank you. So this is something that we'll be doing annually, and I think this will kind of help everybody get a better picture of how we get our money, where it's coming from, and just having some more transparency with the public. So I'm going to give you a summary of what the whole thing is. Some of you might be familiar with it, some of you may not be at all, and that's totally fine. It takes a minute to understand what it is. Criteria process, compliance review process, and then the economic impact of the incentive deductions. So basically, this is a tax incentive. It is a tax incentive to encourage investment in designated enterprise zones. We are an enterprise zone, and so it was determined in the mid-90s that Bloomington in the state of Indiana decided that this particular area was in need of redevelopment and revitalization because of the lack of services, just lack of vibrancy within that area. So this is, I believe that there hasn't been any change as far as where the zone is. It's just expanded within that particular area. So if you look at some of the old maps, you'll see like different kind of cutouts. Now it's kind of all consolidated. So an eligible, oh, what is this? No. What? I don't even have Dropbox. So an eligible investment is the amount of money invested in a qualified property or activity within the zone. There are two types of investment deductions. Real property, which is basically actual buildings, real estate. So that reduces tax on capital improvement investments in real property within the zone and outside of a TIF district, which is a tax increment finance district. There's a little asterisk there because as you'll see, some of the real property investments that we have are actually in TIF districts. For instance, the Catalent one is actually in a TIF district, and that is actually a process that goes through council. So it is possible, but the approval has to be through council because the council is the governing body over that TIF district. And then there's personal property. So reduces taxes on increased value of tangible personal property investments. So equipment, machinery, infrastructure, some building improvements, but not all building improvements. But personal property is sort of, it kind of can be more of a catch-all aside from the real estate. So the criteria and application process, which is relatively simple. So you basically submit the form. You submit an Easy-2 and an Easy-BR. The forms are a little bit complicated, and I'm hoping to work on getting that process a little bit more smoothed out for some of our filers. This year we found that as with the tax abatements, it's difficult for people to file because of the way the form is kind of set up. So we're kind of working on some of that stuff. So the Easy-2, Easy-BR, and any additional documentation required by the county and the BUEA. And it is in person or by mail. Almost every single person has filed by mail, and I usually get an electronic copy, which is really great. Applicants may submit an extension to the auditor before May 15th. And no more than 30-day, and for no more than a 30-day extension. As far as the extensions, they actually have to reach out to me and ask for an extension. We have a very simple form that is supplied by the AIEZ. It's just one of those. The auditor must notify the applicant of the determination before August 15th of the assessment year. And if the applicant disagrees with the determination, they may appeal for review. By review of the determination by filing a complaint with the office of the clerk of the circuit or superior court no later than 45 days after the auditor gives the applicant notice of determination. It is very rare that we've had that happen, at least in the past 2 years that I've been here. Everybody's pretty happy with their deduction. So the compliance and review process. The BUEA oversees the program, and I've been granted that honor of doing that for you all, so you don't have to go through the whole thing. This is kind of the knot on the bow, this report, so you are part of the process for sure. Providing guidance and ensuring compliance with state and local regulations. Annual requirements to maintain eligibility for the deduction year. Businesses must submit required documentation and remain in good standing with all state and local tax obligations, so they have to pay their taxes every year. There are occasions where they will skip the deduction, but they still have to pay their taxes annually to get the deduction. And we can recapture provisions if someone's moved out, or they cease to qualify, or something to that effect. There is a clawback provision within that, very similar to the tax abatement.
Why would someone skip their?
It's a good question. Maybe they forgot to file.
Oh, okay.
I've definitely had a few where it's like, oh, didn't file that last year, but now I'm filing it this year.
Okay.
You can try to amend, and we can get into that later. It is possible to amend a filing, just like you amend your taxes,
Mhm.
your personal taxes. It's basically the same thing.
So if they don't file though, then that means the revenue to the BUA doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's in our interest for them to file.
That's why I send them. That's why I send them many letters. I send them many letters to file for their deduction.
Okay.
So the rest of the responses, the annual reporting, annual fees. The business must pay an annual participation fee to the BUEA, and it's usually about 20%. I think that different municipalities actually do different amounts now because it is up to the municipalities. I don't know what that exactly entails. So that's 20% of the savings from the deduction. So if it was, $100 deduction, we would get $20 of that deduction. Compliance reporting. The business is required to file an annual report, the EZBR and the EZ2 with us and with the AIEZ, which is the Association of Indiana Enterprise Zones, to keep its eligibility. So details on employment, investment activities, and other related zone stuff. This compliance reporting, I am attempting to make a bit more rigid. I think that also with the forms that we have right now, they don't quite meet the standard of what is actually required of reporting. People can report those things, and they do, but once again, it's more of an issue with the form that people are doing the things, but they don't have the spaces to report those things in specifically the EZ2. The EZBR that goes to the state, our state body, the association, has all of that information on it. Sometimes we get both, sometimes we don't. Sometimes I have to chase people down to get both of those forms. So also, again, why we're kind of making this more of a formal reporting process. And then renewal. The business must continue to renew its registration with the BUEA and certify its eligibility each year to receive the deduction. We have, in past years, there have been some skips, which also I'm trying to remedy that as well. So the fees collected from the EZ are the primary source of funding for us. This funding is redistributed. We do grants, scholarships, all the stuff that we're voting on every meeting. This is where we get most of our money. And it's been really great to be able to support all of these different activities that we do. And it also pays for administration fees, our insurance, all of that stuff. So we'll get into it, and I'm gonna try and blow through this as quickly as possible. Catalent has 4 technically 2 ESIDs. One of them has 3 layers, and the other one is a real estate or a real property.
Wait, can you transition us into this a little bit more? So your
Sure.
last slide, you were kind of just talking about the deductions, but then you're diving into Catalent specifically because,
It's in alphabetical order.
oh, so you're gonna go through all of them?
I'm going to try and get through as many as possible.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So, yeah, we are diving right in. So there are 3 layers to the Catalent personal property ESID, and then there is a real estate property ESID, which is Catalent doing business as Cook. Or Cook doing business as Catalent. I can never remember how that works. No, doing business as Cook. Because there are certain rules to the ESID. So with personal property, there can be a transfers, and Jane, please correct me if I'm wrong. There can be a transfers of personal property ESIDs, but there cannot be of real estate ESIDs.
They can all transfer.
They can all
Or,
transfer.
I'm sorry, let me think about this.
The abatements
No,
can.
none of the ESIDs can transfer.
Okay, thank you.
The abatements can transfer.
Thank you. This is, I always get the 2 mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the situation here, thinking about, I know we'll get into it, but Novo Nordisk. So the abatement would transfer, but they will have to reapply for ESID?
So, yes, potentially yes.
And
Okay.
we'll do a legal dive into that just to make sure. I think there is potentially one scenario, if the new business purchases the legal entity of the previous business.
Mhm.
So like when Catalent purchased Cook, they became Catalent DBA Cook. They did not purchase Cook Pharmaca LLC or whatever their legal entity was.
Mm-hmm.
So if you purchase the actual legal entity, that's what the ESID lives with, so then you would technically be purchasing that incentive would be one of the assets that comes along with you. That is not usually how people do business because there are so many liabilities that come along with something like that. But given the scale of Catalent and Novo, it's possible that they do something along those lines, we just don't know yet.
Okay.
But they have advisors on their incentives team that are looking into some of these things already, and then we will get formally pinged with questions
Okay.
as they come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
You've said that so much.
No,
better.
it's hairy.
You did that
Okay.
so much better than I could.
Good to know. Thank you.
So this is just kind of a general description of what it is. It's manufacturing equipment. The development status refers to real property, so that is it. And this is personal property, so it doesn't count. We're in the in Perry Township, and it expires in 32. It's compliant because they have made the purchase of the equipment. They're using the equipment. They paid for it, so and they've paid taxes on it. This is a breakdown of like how we do this. So you can see. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but so the property tax savings. So 20% of the property tax savings is over here, the BUEA fee, and then this is the total investment deduction. So this is the deduction that they get. This is the savings, and we get 20% of the savings. Yeah, so it's I wish it were that simple, but you'd have to see the actual spreadsheets. I'm not gonna dive into that. Yeah, so we have this one until 2032. So they'll file, their last filing will be in 2031, and they will pay those taxes in 2032. Just like when you file your taxes, you're paying for the previous year.
And this is just for 1 year. This spreadsheet or this slide shows.
So this
Yeah.
slide shows, so the length is, it's a 10-year.
So the fee is spread out over 10 years?
No, that's
This is for 1 year.
That's 1 year, okay.
Yes, this is what
Gotcha.
we will get for this year.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry I wasn't
that's
clear
okay.
on that.
And can I ask, like, are the documents that are underlying these slides, are those are public documents?
They are tax forms, so I mean, I guess they,
Just like our, when we do the tax abatement reporting, the
yeah,
Yeah,
CF ones are all,
yeah, so
Yeah.
they don't,
Yeah.
but the documents don't live on the BUEA website, but
No.
they could be
no, they
requested.
do not,
Okay.
they could absolutely be requested.
Okay.
So, yay, another catalyst. This is, another one, so the layer, so this is the second layer of it. This layer was, is a little bit older, which is why it's paying 31. This is a much smaller piece of equipment, yay. And so, oh, I think there's a 0 missing here. There's a 0 missing somewhere in there. Sorry about that. I did not see this typo. Maybe? No, we're good. So once again, 20%, this is the BUA fee of $7,735.19. This is also, they will file in, their last year filing will be 31 and they'll pay 32. And then this is the last personal property for Catalent, which is considerably larger.
I think you were missing a digit in that
Did I?
field.
I think I
Yeah,
was
So you
too.
might just flag that to go back. And-
Okay, for sure.
It's the one up.
Yeah,
There you go.
there we go. All right. All right. And this is the last real property improvement deduction. So, full disclosure, there is an amendment to this ESID. There were some mathematical errors in the original filing. We are working to get that amended, but we're still kind of sorting out the legality of it. And the exact process of making that happen, because once again, this doesn't happen often that people are amending or refiling,
So this is layer 3 for
Mhm.
23, pay 24,
Mhm.
and it may be amended or it will be amended.
They have sent the amended filing.
Okay.
We just need to figure out on our end the correct process of accepting the amended filing.
Okay. So it may just come before this board for
Mhm.
formal approval. And then the totals on this slide reflect the amendment or reflect the original filing?
These reflect the original filing.
Okay. And the amendment, sorry, one more question, it increases or decreases the BUEA fee?
Yeah, that was
I
my
believe that it
question.
increases the BUA
Okay.
fee.
That was my
Thanks, Dee.
question.
And then you're saying it would come before the board for approval, the amendment?
It may, yeah, it may.
Do we approve? So it seems like a gap in my knowledge.
No.
No, not at all. This is.
You don't approve unless there's something, an extension or, these are by right deductions. So
yeah.
they either qualify or they don't, but if they have a late filing or an amendment or
Okay.
anything funny, then it,
We
comes
just-
to the board for
yeah.
approval.
Okay.
We just have to say, okay, we're gonna accept this filing.
Okay,
Because
and
it
that's
was
not,
passed the day.
that's not an administrative decision, that's a board decision, okay.
Mhm.
And
Good questions.
yeah, so, and then the last one is the, real estate property, for, Catalent. This one expires in 2030 and it's, paid 2031. And currently that is oh, there's Virginia, excuse me. Hello, Virginia. Hi. We're just going through the presentation that I put in the packet. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if you have any questions later, then please give me a call and I'll go through it with you. So for this real property, it'll be $114,759.91. So as you can see, this is a large chunk of our income for this year. some of the other reason why I wanted to show you this is because I want you guys to see the developments and the things that have happened in this area. This is such a cute building, and I don't know if you go to Two Sticks Bakery, but they
Who
have.
doesn't go to
Yeah,
Six
they have the best
Bakery?
cinnamon rolls in town. This is Justin Fox. He's also the person who is doing who received the facade grant for the Best Taste building
Yeah.
over on 4th Street.
Yeah.
So,
Which looks awesome
which
if you go by.
yeah, it looks
Oh, I
really
haven't seen
cool.
it.
I know, I haven't seen it
It's
lately
taking
either.
shape.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
wanna go, yeah. Go
So this is what the deduction hath wrought. So this is residential and retail property. It's got 9 rental units. It also has 2 Sticks Bakery. The zoning, it's a mixed use, medium scale area, and the development is complete. And this expires paid 2029. The investment deduction was originally $988,000 with a property tax savings of $20,907, and we get $4,181 annually at this point. Should they do, and he did do some additional capital investment this year on that building, what I assume is probably some infrastructure stuff. Yeah, so awesome, cute little thing that we have in our area.
These fees are much more human scale, they're more relatable
Yeah,
than the Catalan ones.
absolutely.
Where it's like, if
Yeah.
you invest $1 million,
Yeah.
you're gonna save about 21,000. And if you're a local developer, operator, that $21,000 is pretty significant for annual expenses.
And the other thing is that these aren't necessarily, this investment deduction, I think, you can kind of convolute it with having to be like a big corporation or a big, huge company, and that's not really true. This is a rental property on North College Avenue. It's other commercial housing. It's 3 rental units. I believe that it's student housing. I think it's graduate student housing. It's mixed use downtown Gateway. The development's complete, and we have this till 2026. The investment deduction was around close to $600,000, and the savings is around $12,650. So we get about $2,500 from that. Something else that I kind of want to start asking is the residential that you're doing, is it affordable or not? Because I think that's something that we should probably can't do it?
No, these are by right.
These are by right?
Yeah, so if they qualify for the incentive.
Gotcha.
Since it came from the, yeah.
Okay,
So
all right.
separately, they could get some kind of incentive if they felt like from.
If they're an affordable housing developer, they're probably working on a different, well, there are 2 things at play. A, they would probably have access to other incentives through the state or through housing and neighborhood development or tax abatements. So they would qualify for our tax abatement
Sure.
program, which allows them to kind of request this particular structure of the incentive. And then part 2 of that is that there are no longer allowed real estate deductions within the TIF and the consolidated TIF. So when these real property deductions are mostly pre-2016, I think, which was when the TIF was consolidated. And then when the TIF was consolidated, council became the governing body over that. So for real property, the BUEA is the governing body. So what this means is that the 2 deductions are basically in competition with each other, and then the EZID pulls revenue away from the TIF, and so the TIF has priority because it's getting repayment for the infrastructure that it's putting out into the community. So there are no longer approvals of real estate EZIDs within the footprint of the TIF. So that's just to say, if it's affordable, it will probably have access to other incentives. If it's in the TIF, there's a process for them to appeal, but it's not realistic that would get approved by council.
So, and I'm just trying to process
No,
all
go
that.
for it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
there's a lot to think about.
So if there's a new development that's in a district that overlaps TIF and
BUVA.
Yeah, then TIF is the primary,
Mhm.
and we don't get.
They don't get access to the real
Okay.
estate,
Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing that we talked about early on was kind of like figuring out which parts of the BUEA are not in the TIF. And so I'm backtracking on something I just said. I think this spur on Henderson and Hillside might not be in the TIF.
It actually is.
Oh, so you.
But it predated.
But it does predate because it's 2016.
Okay, so it predates.
So it predates it.
And then the area, one other like rare area that's commercial and not, it's in the enterprise zone and not in the TIF, is behind Kleindorfer's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There's a whole neighborhood. Okay, it's not commercial, it's residential.
Yeah.
So we have talked to that property owner to see if they're thinking about any kind of development and.
Is that where the trailer court is?
Mhm. Nothing's materialized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. That would be a great, although the trailer court is
It's
really.
important too.
Yeah,
Right,
really important
right.
to
Mhm. Yeah.
some of the.
So one other question on that, so with the changes to the TIF, how has that
Oh, actually,
been,
it's
or
not.
how,
You're right.
I mean, it seems like then it's cutting off potential revenue for BUEA, right? I mean, like, if the TIF, if this particular, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I may be wrong, but if the hillside development is in the TIF, but it predates, so it's grandfathered,
Mhm.
if they did something and wanted to reapply, that's no longer an option?
Not for real property.
Not for
I
real
can
property, but it
speak
could
more
be for
globally.
personal property.
Yeah.
So that's the difference
Yeah,
there.
that personal properties by right. So the way it has shaped the BUEA revenue, it hasn't had a material impact really because Catalent and the fact that we have a major employer inside the BUEA has really driven
Right.
the revenue of the BUEA. But over time, you do see, I mean, even the list from when I started in 2020, the number of properties that we're servicing through the EZID is greatly reduced. It's just it's a much smaller program now. But
Yeah.
it's been okay because biopharma is growing. We're benefiting from that. I had tried, and we haven't really gotten into this yet, before I left in 2022, to educate business owners about the personal property. It's a business called business tangible personal property. And that means anything that you use to generate revenue for your operation. So Felisa, I'm looking at you, like chairs, equipment, any equipment. For restaurants, they get a pretty significant amount of investment for equipment. So I think Uptown, for example, is in the TIF, but they had when they remodeled their kitchen however many years ago, they had an EZID on that kitchen equipment. Hopscotch had one when it started, that I think has lain dormant because there is also, if you're filing your own business tangible property tax returns, it's pretty cumbersome. So there's like a level of, I don't know what to call it, but like sophistication where you pretty much have to have an accountant doing your work if you're going to try to claim the deduction and stay on top of it. But it's doable, and I think it would be great to have these savings for other businesses. Like MSP Aviation is one that would be a good group to talk to, and there are others.
Yeah. We should talk about doing something that's kind of like hand in hand, where it's like we're educating you about the EZID, and then we're also like helping you find the technical service to be able to get that done and figuring
Maybe
something out like
some
that.
Events about that would be great.
Yeah. Just to roll back and correct, actually that the hillside is actually not in a TIF district. Sorry, I flipped to the wrong. I flipped to the wrong
Okay.
slide.
Sorry.
But yeah.
But it still expires in 2025.
Yes, so it is 3 buildings with 30 rental units, and it's a mixed-use neighborhood. I'm sure you all have seen it or passed by it. So the original investment deduction was over $2 million with private tax savings of $43,000, and we receive around almost $9,000 annually from it. So this was their last year to file, and we will get their last fee next year. Another residential commercial residential area, and this is on North College. So it's one building and 46 rental units. All the dome has been done, and it is in a TIF district, but the EASD was established pre or in 2016. The original investment was around $6 million. Private tax savings around $133,000, and we get about $27,000 from them annually. And so their last year for filing is next year, and we'll get their last payment in 2026. More residential, which is great. On North Walnut, this is one building with 16 rental units. This is in a TIF district. This was their last year to pay. And it was established in, I'm assuming, in 2014. So the investment deduction was originally around $1 million with property tax savings of around $25,000, and we have received around $5,000 from this.
And so 25 would be the last year that that's received, right?
No,
Or 24.
this is
24
the last year that
This is the
we've
last.
received.
So this goes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that one goes
So,
away.
yes, this one is,
GMS Pavilion,
I should have differentiated that with a different color or something to that effect, sorry. As you can see, there's a lot of housing that's been put in, which is great. Unfortunately, most of these are expiring or are older. So what we hope to see is that we're going to be giving EASDs for at least personal property of new developments. So we'll get out there and see what can happen. One building, 13 units, mixed use student housing. It's pretty far north, and not in a TIF district, strangely enough. And we're at about the investment deduction was $721,000 or $721,000 with private tax savings of around $15,000, and we get around $3,000 from them annually. So this has expired. We've got the last filing this year, and we got the last payment this year. Sorry.
Okay, so that's another one like GMS Pavilion that's
Yes.
going
Rolling
away.
off.
That's rolling off. That's two.
This is a much smaller one. This is one of the most reasonable ones that I have seen as far as the development. This is kind of what I feel we can kind of we should be looking for and encouraging. So one building, 3 units. It's a small residential lot. It is in a TIF district. I think that they established the EASD in 2016, but didn't start claiming benefits until 2018.
And this is a single owner operator of a
Mhm.
rental.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, I felt pretty good about this, where it's just like an individual person who's
Yeah. Providing,
in keeping this property in the long-term rental market.
yeah, and affordable.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what she charges for rent, but.
Yeah. So the original investment deduction is $62,000 with prior tax savings of $1,320, and so our annual VUA fee is about $264. That's
Just one point here. So though this would not qualify now.
it would not qualify
No.
now.
Sorry, I think that this address
says it was in the, I'm just trying to also kind of think about, like,
Sorry,
as these
can you-
start rolling off, and then what other opportunities for revenue, and then because of the TIF, I'm feeling like, you know, some of those avenues for revenue for BUA are potentially
Sure.
altered or changed or limited in some
Yeah.
places, so.
Do I have the wrong address up?
I'm just looking it up,
Or did I may have just used the wrong.
because I thought
filing
this
address.
one was, this is 1109 South Rogers.
You're not thinking it's in a TIF district?
You said it was filed in what year?
I believe that it was filed in 2016, but they didn't start.
Yeah, and I think it's, a lot newer than that, because I think this one turned up when I was working, and there's a weird area of,
Oh, weird little spot.
I think so, yeah, so here's South Rogers, and I don't know what the cross street is, but, of this street, but like, there are some donuts
There's some
in
donuts.
McDowell Gardens in, the TIF, and so I think
That's good to
I think
know.
this address is just in one of those,
In
but for some
donuts.
reason, my lookup tool is not cooperating with me right now, so, but my eyeball says
Okay.
it's in a donut
So-
hole.
Yeah, that is a lot of the, that's why it does tend to be problematic with the TIF districts, because, yeah, we just can't claim that real property. And once again, there is a mechanism to do it, but it is not beneficial to, with the exception of Catalent, because Catalent was such a large investment, because there's a resolution to approve the real property eased by council for Catalent. Like, I was just reading it today.
So, their real property wasn't pre-2016?
Mm-mm. Yeah, so just read that, it was pre-2016, but, and I will pull up the resolution and share it with everyone,
Yeah.
because it's from 2013.
So there's a TIF there, before there was a
Mhm.
consolidated TIF, that
Mhm.
was in the
It was for the Thompson TIF
And so
specifically.
it's not different, it's the same.
Okay,
So, for whatever reason, council must have elected to approve that.
yeah.
I don't know if this conversation is interesting to people. Dee and I live in these incentives. so
We're
we
such
kind of
nerds.
talk
I'm
about
so
them.
sorry.
So
If you guys are
yeah,
falling
yeah,
asleep, I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
I think that the big picture is just something that is, I think there's just marketing work that
Mhm.
that we have to do for this incentive to get it out there and get it used. And then also, just backing the frame up even more, there was a time period when it was the way we were, when I was on the board of the BUA, the way we were talking about its future was like, well, we're not going to be able to continue issuing these incentives at all because the state is sunsetting this program. What does our future look like? How much of our nest egg do we want to spend annually? Because we anticipated that we were on this kind of like downward trajectory and would eventually sunset. So, in a way, like, there's a really great story because that anticipated trajectory shifted. We're able to self-govern and keep administering these incentives. And so now the BVA has the ability to have a long-term revenue stream and continue earning revenue and implementing programs. And then I think where the interesting questions come in are like, how do we get new participants? How do we get these benefits into the hands of people who are going to make investments in this area, which honestly, there was a time period where the enterprise zone was established in 1993 and the map hasn't changed ever. And there was a period where pre-D, I was kind of like, are we getting the right people? Is this the right area that's in need? And as the city has changed over the years, and honestly, as this neighborhood has experienced really a lot of secondary impacts of our street homelessness situation in town, this neighborhood's been disproportionately impacted. I think the map is really great where it is. I think there are a couple of areas that I wish were
Recaptured.
scooped
Yeah.
that aren't, but I don't think that there are areas in the enterprise zone that don't belong there. So then it gets into the marketing piece, and it's like, who, you know, who are the people who are making personal property investments? Who are the people who are in the donut hole areas where there aren't TIF restrictions?
Right.
Yeah, and then I think that gets into pretty fun stuff because it's just meeting people and talking to them about what they're doing and education.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that future projects will be mostly smaller, like some of the ones, you know, the smallish 3-unit rental property, given just the composition of what exists and what
Well-
footprint the BUEA has relative to TIF?
There's an interesting, it might be kind of overwhelming, but I just chatted you a link to the economic development GIS that has multiple layers. So it has the TIF and the enterprise zone, and you can also click zoning districts.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of isolate what areas are in the donut holes and how they are zoned, and then you can really start to get a picture of what could be developed.
I guess part of my question is, you know, if you look at the revenue coming from a Catalent versus the number of projects you'd have to have of a smaller nature to even come close to that, administratively, obviously it's
Yeah.
easier to manage a Catalent than it is to manage 300
Yeah.
small, and so whether the capacity exists to manage a significant growth in those smaller projects.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to think about, and then also just always trying to tie back to the
Purpose.
code that established it, which is for economic vitality in the enterprise zone. And so I think it's really a both and, where we want small businesses and those investors in smaller properties to be able to benefit, and that small dollar amount will have outsized impact for the local small players. And then we also, I think, do want to drive revenue in a big way so that the BUA can continue to have significant impact.
Yeah, no, I did some quick math, sorry, I can't help but run numbers, it's
Great.
in my DNA.
Did I not send it?
Um,
I bet I didn't
Okay,
hit send.
can you send it to the Zoom chat?
Sure.
So just this was quick math. So it looks like there are 14 individual businesses right now, if I've done the math right, and some have multiple, like Catalan, and I know we're not there yet, Dee, but SCP 9 North College or whatever. So as it's calculated, Catalan is $396,000 of the total coming to BUEA. The total from all is about $517,500.
Yeah.
So obviously Catalan is our big fish that is providing a lot. And also, as I look at all of the other ones, they're pretty much all developments. And so, I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, these would not qualify probably moving forward except for
Sure.
one or two of these. So I think the point about the personal property is really important, and the marketing of that, you know, I just did the quick numbers right here, but
Sure.
if we graphed this out and put it on years 24, 25, 26, 27, as these fall off, we're going to be Catalan here, and you know, so I think there needs to be some kind of thought around on that, and as you're already talking about kind of that trajectory, what does that look like, and how does that, as an organization that has a budget of, as the budget for this year was like $451,000 in expenditures, you know, just being it, and if we want to be able to grow some programs or move money differently or focus on other things or whatnot, I think, you know, just kind of that whole that whole picture and thinking about that long term.
Yeah, and we
Um,
did have, we can unearth them and see if they're still valid, or this could be a good project for that levy class. We did have revenue projections, looking ahead because we anticipated the roll-off of these major.
Right.
But the $500,000 neighborhood is, so Catalent used to have a smaller share of the revenue, and the large-scale housing developments had a larger share, and then it's shifted over time, and so it's stayed in the neighborhood of, I think that 517 or whatever you said, or you said,
Yeah, I
is
did it real
reduced,
quick,
but not
517.
by
Not
much.
by
I think
much.
it used to be 575.
Okay.
Yeah. Dee, if you let me in, I can share this map.
I think this conversation is really great for a foundation for whatever strategic planning we do eventually. But I also see we have 5 minutes. Are we doing anything else for this meeting?
No. And
Okay.
it's fine that we're not going through all of it, but you guys now have an understanding of what we do and how we do it, and it's okay.
You might get the feedback, you'll
Sorry.
have to make it yourself, so.
And just generally be able to, if you want to dive deeper into it, if you guys have any questions. But I wanted you all to know, it's like, this is how we're getting our money.
Right.
It's always just kind of like a big number on a spreadsheet,
Right.
and it's like, okay, cool.
No, I
Where did
think
that
the
come from?
presentation is extremely helpful, and I love that you've itemized everything out, and we can really see the businesses that are, contributing, and that's super helpful. Thank you. So thank you very, very much for the presentation and sharing that with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Jane has something up here, but just as a quick, just a couple of minutes here. So we didn't have quorum today, so we won't be able to vote on anything, so we'll have some other things to vote on. I would ask maybe that everyone provide some feedback on the proposal around
grant, yeah.
the grant. Could maybe email it to Dee or something, so maybe, because I had like 2 or 3
Make sure
suggestions
that you
or something.
email it directly to me,
Yeah.
and that it is not on a reply all, because then that means that we're not, then once it's more than 3 board members on an email, then it is now a meeting. So you have to email it directly to me.
Yeah,
So.
and this would just be like feedback or suggestions or whatever, so maybe we can bring that forward next meeting and then get an approval on it. And then I didn't know if you had a certain amount on that, Dee, like how much of that you were suggesting, like how many or how much of those in a dollar amount?
Hadn't gotten that far
Okay.
yet, but I'll have something. I'll have something next
Okay,
time.
yeah, that is a suggestion maybe to the group as well, and we can talk about it. So, so we'll just have to double up on a few things.
Yeah.
This is Phil. I'm just wondering if Jane or Dee could send us, if there are materials about best practices in other communities, as we think about the grant future.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I'd be interested in having more information in that regard.
I can ask around. It's funny because when Jane was in my position, she was the vice president of the AIUC.
Oh, yeah.
So I get a lot of calls asking for Jane, and I'm like, Jane doesn't
sorry.
do that, but I can now. No, it's not your fault. They just haven't changed the name on the on the thing. Actually, it's been really great talking to other enterprise zones and seeing how they do and what they do. A really interesting one, you can look it on your own, is Evansville's enterprise zone. They're doing some really cool stuff with their monies, so highly recommend checking that one out.
Fort Wayne rolled
Fort Wayne
theirs
does really
entirely into like entrepreneurship and equity, and they really invested heavily in a program that they copied from Detroit. And so, yeah, and then they've applied their zone more like a tax abatement tool where, anyway, that's for another day maybe. Can I just,
Yeah, real quick.
okay, so the blue area is the enterprise zone. So you can see this little arm is where the Henderson and Hillside stuff is. It's kind of right there. and then here comes the TIF. It's just all over it, but you can see there are some areas left.
That are not covered
Yep.
by the TIF.
So I think and then a lot of the areas not covered by the TIF are residential, but not entirely. And I think, Mary, this is kind of interesting to think about too, as we're thinking about housing and what our community needs are. We know that we need affordable housing, period, but we need all types of housing. And so we get questions from market rate developers about what tools the city can offer. Well, we're not offering tools for market rate housing developments, but if they're outside of the TIF, they would technically qualify for this.
So can you just orient me, the large, so put the TIF overlay back on. Looks like 3 larger segments. Roughly where are those?
So this top area is 17th Street, and this is Miller Showers Park.
Okay, so that the trades district falls within the
Yes.
not TIF, but still BUEA.
The trades district is actually in the downtown. It's this curve right here.
Oh, so but the whole hill is in the BUEA.
No, look at,
No.
isn't this part of the, oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, I take it back. Sorry, I'm not in the right area, so this is Trail View. Where does the trail go? It loops up and then back down, but I'm not seeing it for some reason. Walnut. Okay, I'm completely disoriented, sorry guys. It happens when you're in these tools too much.
Zoom in maps
Yeah.
sometimes make it harder than it's intended.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know why I'm struggling with that, but anyway, I think this is, yeah, here's 11th
Oh, okay, I see.
in Madison, so here's the mill right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but, there's some major personal property that's getting
going-
ready to go into the EDA grant
Yes.
building.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, obviously, you're already thinking about it,
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be a major
I've
point-
already had
point of
inquiries,
contact and so forth.
Yeah, we're definitely into it, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're a minute after, so I don't want to hold everyone any longer. So thank you. Thanks to all online. So we will have some extra things to cover next meeting in October. So we'll see all of you then.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Heather, thank you, Dee.
Have a
Thanks,
good one.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.